Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. So Nikola Jokic is this year's MVP. It was just announced the other day that Nikola Jokic has won his consecutive MVP. And to say that has caused a uproar in the social sports community is an understatement. Now, let me first say this. I have no problem with Nikola Jokic. Let me say this. While I have no problem with Nikola Jokic winning the MVP, I think it was well deserved. I do have a problem with the way that the MVP is rolled out for the NBA. And here's what I mean by that. Nikola Jokic did everything he does. In my opinion, he was deserving of winning the MVP. I mean, he was the first player in NBA history, I believe, to have like 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and like 500 assists in one season. What people have to remember is that the MVP is a regular season award. It awards the best player throughout the regular season. I've talked about this before. I don't feel the MVP represents the best player. I feel like there should be there should be two different awards. There should be the MVP and there should be the best player, because a lot of times the best player does not win the MVP. I mean, there was multiple times Steve Nash won the MVP when Shaq and Kobe were in the league. There's times when, you can have an argument. People argue Steph Curry's first MVP when you had James Harden going crazy and LeBron. Like, there should be two separate awards. Now, I talked about this ad nauseum before, so I'm not going to go over it in outstanding details, but there should be two awards, the best player award and the MVP. So why are people in an uproar with Nikola Jokic winning MVP? Well, a lot of people think that Joel Embiid should have won the MVP. Now, while yes, I think that Nikola Jokic should have won the MVP and ultimately did, I would have had no problem if a report came out and they announced that Joel Embiid won the MVP. Joel Embiid, I think, was the first center since Shaq to lead the league in scoring or have like over 30 points per game. Embiid had probably his best season. He had his best season that he's had so far in the league. And he was the sole reason until, of course, he is the sole reason why Philly is still in the play. Philly has a chance to go. We'll talk about it later, but has a chance to beat Miami in this playoff series. So I would have absolutely no problem if they announced that Joel Embiid instead of Nikola Jokic won the MVP. They both had incredible seasons. Let's not act like they didn't. But here is my problem. Let me first say this. Let me first give you the difference between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. There is a huge difference. And I talked about this last episode, and I've talked about this before. There's a difference between loud points and quiet points. Loud impact and quiet impact. So what do I mean by that? The example that I used last episode was Kevin Durant and Giannis. Both incredible players, both like worldly, all world, all NBA, all-time players. Both have very different ways to score, but in both KD, this is why I say, now KD can have loud points. This is what I mean by quiet points. KD, his game is so smooth. He's able to do things offensively that people can only dream of, that you look up and KD has 45 points. And you say, wait, KD has 45? And you only remember like maybe 2 or 3 buckets. Like you only remember 2 or 3 buckets that he made. But you're like, how the hell did he have 45 points? Those are quiet points. Nothing wrong with quiet points. So don't take it as a disrespect. There's nothing wrong with quiet points. It's just you're so efficient. It's like, oh, he has 50 points, and I can only remember 2 or 3 buckets. Not saying that he didn't get the other buckets clearly because he has 50, but it's like you don't think like, wait, when the hell did he score this? Jesus, he is incredible. Those are quiet points, and again, quiet points and loud points are exactly the same. I mean, they're not exactly the same, but they both are still points, and they both come from great players. Giannis has the loudest points in the league. I can argue Giannis, Ja Morant, Steph Curry, they have the loudest points in the league. Giannis, he will bang on you. Giannis will come down the lane and dunk on 3 people, dunk on the whole team. He'll do a back down turnaround jumper. He'll every time he hits a 3 it's miraculous. So it's like, oh my God. Giannis has the loudest points in the league. Those are the difference. Let me expand that. Because Joel Embiid is a loud point scorer. Nikola Jokic he has quiet points, and their effects on the game ring differently. Joel Embiid is a loud player, but not in the sense of loud to the media or just like obnoxious. No, I mean loud as his buckets are loud. Dunk on you, he'll celebrate. He gets other people involved at times. But that, Joel Embiid is a showman, but he's also an incredible basketball player. Nikola Jokic, he'll have 47 points. You're like, Jesus Christ. He had 47 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. Like, damn, well, when did this happen? Or he doesn't really showboat. He doesn't celebrate. The only time that he is like loud or boisterous is when he's arguing with the refs. He doesn't really celebrate. I kind of hearken it. Here's a better example. An example that I think kind of fits a little more than the whole KD and Giannis. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. But there's people that still don't understand that how great Tim Duncan was. When I look at the loud, quiet argument, when I look at this year's, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid race, I think of Tim Duncan and Kobe. Rest in peace to Kobe. Now, and I'm not saying Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic is Tim Duncan and Kobe, so don't run with that. But what I'm saying is, Kobe, his game was loud. 81 points. 62 points in like 3 quarters. Like Kobe had a loud game. Dunk on you, the Black Mamba, the stare down, the snarls, the breaking people down, the windmills, the fro. Like Kobe was a loud player. Tim Duncan was the very opposite. Now people forget young Tim Duncan was. He was cold his whole career, but young Tim Duncan was different than older Tim Duncan. But Tim Duncan, Mr. Fundamental. You'll look up and all you can think of, all he has is free throws and a bank layup, and he has 50 points. Like, Tim Duncan got 50? That to me is the perfect example of loud versus quiet. And the thing that I notice a lot, especially when we talk about fans and people in social media and sometimes even analysts, is we'll praise the loud buckets before we praise the quiet buckets, because the quiet buckets are not fun to praise. Like, who wants to praise a turnaround bank shot? Who wants to praise a layup off the backboard? Like, who wants to praise who wants to praise assist all the time? And don't get me wrong, do not hear me say, I'm not trying to down Joel Embiid. I'm not trying to down Nikola Jokic. I'm not saying one is better than the other. But what I'm saying is they both are different players, but they both are incredible players. And just like the Kobe and again, rest in peace to Kobe. But even before he passed, a lot of people are dumbfounded when people say there's a lot of people in this world that think that Tim Duncan had a better career than Kobe. But people don't understand. It's like, oh, Kobe had those loud buckets, man, loud buckets, and Tim Duncan had the quiet buckets. And people's like, we kind of project the loud more than the quiet. That's just what we do. Tim Duncan damn near did this outside of, points and stuff. Tim Duncan damn near has the same amount of accolades as Kobe. But people aren't going to understand that, especially if you don't really pay attention to basketball like that, because of how the points were scored. So, congratulations to Nikola Jokic for winning this year's MVP, becoming third foreign player, I believe, to win back-to-back. Because I know Steve Nash and Giannis. But here's what I don't like, and here's what I think that they're kind of doing a disservice, not only to the MVP award, but to Nikola Jokic or anybody that wins the MVP. This is a regular season award. People saying, why don't you have an MVP for the playoffs? You do. It's called the NBA Finals. It's called the Finals MVP. If you make it to the Finals MVP, if you make it to the Finals and win Finals MVP, that means more than likely you were great in the playoffs. Now, there are some instances where you miss a lot of time in the playoffs, you come back in the Finals and win. Okay, but that's what the Finals MVP pretty much is. Who is the best player in the Finals, which ultimately goes to which it matters most, But the MVP is a regular season award. It does the award and it does the recipient of the award such a disservice when you announce the winner in the second round of the playoffs. Now, why is that? Because that fuels the narrative. That fuels the narrative of, well, wait, Nikola Jokic just got bounced out the playoffs 4-1 to Golden State, negating the fact that Golden State is a better leaps and bounds better team than the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets didn't have Jamal Murray, nor did they have Michael Porter Jr. And the fact that Nikola Jokic averaged damn near like 30 in that, or actually I think more than 30 in that playoff series. But you award the MVP to a player that's not even playing right now. When the second overall or the second player that, the runner-up in Joel Embiid right now is I'm shooting this before game 5 of the NBA playoffs. So right now is tied up in the second round to Miami. You do the award such a disservice because now it lessens the cachet. It lessens the aura of the award, because it's like, you're giving it to a player that's not playing. So people are already going to have, oh, shoot, well, did you see what Joel Embiid's been doing in the playoffs? Did you see what Joel Embiid did to Toronto? Did you see what Joel Embiid is doing to Miami right now? But no, you're going to say that you're giving it to a player that just got bounced out the playoffs in the first round 4-1 to Golden State, which completely lessens the impact of that award. So now you have people on TV talking about Nikola Jokic. This is the worst award winner, forgetting the fact that this is a regular season award and that this is Nikola Jokic had one of the most historically dominant seasons. Now, another thing that I hear, which I'm glad that I said that. Another thing that I hear is, I think Kendrick Perkins, shout out to Kendrick Perkins. I'm not taking shots at anybody, but I know I did see Kendrick Perkins say this, that Joel Embiid's award, or was it? Yeah, Joel Embiid's award, or Joel Embiid was the players MVP, and Nikola Jokic was analytics MVP. Yet again, let me just Let me just paint the picture here. Nikola Jokic was without their second and third best player this entire season. Well, majority of the season. They had Michael Porter Jr., but he went out very early in the season. He then, in turn, and I said this before, but I will say it again. He then, in turn, had 2,000 plus points, 1,000 plus rebounds, and 500 plus assists in one season, becoming the first player ever. And think about that. There have Michael Jordan, LeBron James, somebody that I would assumed would have done that. LeBron James, Magic, Kareem, Shaq, Wilt. I mean, everybody wants to throw in Bill Russell and Larry Bird. All these great players. Players that a lot of people that I'm hearing on social media that's talking like Nikola Jokic is garbage, shouldn't be in the same, or Nikola Jokic shouldn't be in the same class as these players. If you listen to some people. Nikola Jokic is the first player and the only player in NBA history to do that in one season. Yet and still, people are saying that he's the analytics MVP. Yo, I get it, man. I get it. It always goes back to the loud versus soft players. Or not soft, I apologize. Loud versus quiet players. That's what it comes down to, the loud versus the quiet. Everyone talks about who's a loud player. Everyone talks about Kyrie Irving's points. Kyrie Irving has some loud points. That's just what he is. Damian Lillard has loud points. Steph Curry has loud points. Jalen Brunson has quiet points. Not saying that he's on the same level as those players. Let me not do that then. Let me not disrespect them. Again, people always talk about Kobe, but even before he passed, but rest in peace to Kobe. Everyone talks about Kobe and his points. Nobody really talks about Tim Duncan. That's just how it is. So if the NBA wants to, this is the MVP has always been a regular season award, always. And they give it out like either at the end of the regular season or like the first round of the playoffs. So you should continue to, I understand the whole MVP awards, or I mean not the MVP, like the NBA awards if they're going to keep doing that. But so you don't lessen the award and lessen the player getting the award. Give it to the player in the first round of the playoffs like you used to do. I think they usually do it the first home game of the playoffs. First or second home game. The player will come. I remember Allen Iverson, he came to the middle of the court. Steph Curry did it as well. Held it up. I don't understand why now you have people saying, just completely forget and completely negate what Nikola Jokic did all season to say, why are you giving Joel Embiid still playing? He should win the award. Not to mention the fact that they had these awards, they had these ballots in, I think, the final week of the regular season. Meaning, and shouts out to Tyler Hero, meaning they knew Tyler Hero was the sixth man of the year at the end of the regular season. They knew Nikola Jokic was the MVP at the end of the regular season. They knew that Monty Williams was the coach of the year at the end of the regular season. They knew that Scotty Barnes was the rookie of the year at the end of the season. They knew that Marcus Smart was the defensive player of the year at the end of the regular season. Yet and still, you announced it. I don't know why they're sporadically announcing it. That's one thing. Like, I don't know why you get the rookie of the year, and then a couple days later you get the sixth man of the year. Then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later you get the defense. I don't know why they just don't announce them all at once, and why they don't announce it in the first round of the playoffs. Think about that. Imagine. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but imagine if every single award winner was bounced out the first round. The MVP, Coach of the Year. Imagine if the Pelicans beat the Phoenix Suns. Imagine if the Atlanta Hawks beat Miami, and imagine if Brooklyn lost to Boston. Brooklyn beat Boston. That means every single award winner. Oh, and Toronto. Toronto did lose to Philly. Every single award winner would have been bounced out the first round. Do you understand how much scrutiny you would have the NBA? The NBA is getting scrutiny now for the MVP of the league being bounced. Or with people forgetting the fact that, again, it's a regular season award, but people are killing the NBA. Do the right thing. Announce it in the first round of the playoffs like you used to do. And if you're going to announce them sporadically, like make it in the same week. Maybe Monday you announce the rookie of the year, Tuesday you announce the defensive player of the year. Just announce them the same week. Because it doesn't make sense how you just announced the MVP a couple days, and these games are going into game 4 and 5. Actually, going into games 5 and 6. What sense does that make? I don't know, man. But I will say, shouts out and congratulations to Nikola Jokic for winning the MVP. Well deserved. I feel bad for Joel Embiid, not because he didn't win, because he played well enough to he played well enough to be the MVP. So did Nikola Jokic. So I wouldn't have been upset if it came out that I wouldn't have been shocked. Let's say I wasn't shocked when they came out and said Nikola Jokic won, but I wouldn't have been shocked if they said Joel Embiid won, and I wouldn't have felt that. I don't feel Joel Embiid was robbed. I don't feel that. If Joel Embiid would have won, I wouldn't feel that Nikola Jokic was robbed. I think that they both were very deserving of the award. They both had an incredible season. So that's that. But shouts out to Nikola Jokic for winning his second straight MVP. So let's move on to the playoffs. Let's talk about Golden State currently being up 3-1 against Memphis. Now, there's something that what you're seeing from Memphis is purely inexperience. Because if you look on paper, Memphis there's a reason why they're the second seed in the West. There's a reason why they were incredibly. They have a good team. John Morant, Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane, Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson Jr., Kyle Anderson. They have a good team. But what you're seeing is this series is a stark reminder that there is a difference between the regular season and the playoffs. And experience matters. Quiet as is kept, Memphis should have what should have happened, and I'm not just saying it because of the rankings, but if you look at the roster, Memphis should have beat Minnesota 4-0. Memphis has all the tools to beat Golden State. Memphis should be up Golden State 2-1 right now. No, 3-1. I can say 2-2. But it's about experience. If we talk about how the playoffs have been going, Memphis shouldn't have got out the first round because of inexperience. There's a reason why people talk about experience a lot. There's a reason for that. Now, I didn't understand at first. Like a couple years ago, I'm like, why do they keep talking about experience? I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a better team, experience shouldn't matter, but that's not the case at all. Experience, you know how to win. You know how different situations work. You know how not to panic. That all comes with experience. I think Memphis is going to be a really good team, but there was 2 games in this series. Game 1 and Game 4. Game 1, Steph and Clay have the worst games. Let me not say that. Steph and Clay. Game 1, Steph and Clay don't play that well. Draymond Green gets ejected first half. You're winning. Golden State comes back. Klay Thompson misses 2 free throws. Klay Thompson, by the way, who I am on record saying is the second best shooter of all time. He is at the free throw line and misses 2. You have the ball with 4 seconds left in John Morant's hands. You miss the layup. You lose. Game 4, 2 nights ago. Golden State plays probably the worst game I have seen them play in years. With Steph, Clay, and everybody. Klay Thompson goes 0 for 7 from 3. Steph goes 4 for 14 from 3. They turn the ball over galore. Draymond Green, the first half, looks out of it. Jordan Poole's just playing bad. You don't have John Morant, and you're up. I think they were up as much as 12 points. Golden State didn't lead the entire game. Yet somehow, the series is now 3-1. Golden State comes back. They go on, I think the last 2 minutes, they go on an 11-2 run and win the game. Steph Curry scores 18 points in the fourth quarter. What we're seeing is a team that has been here before. While, yes, there are pieces like Jordan Poole, like Otto Porter, who is a veteran in the league, but hasn't really. Oh, that's a lie because he's been to the. He was with the Wizards when they had some playoff runs. But Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins. These are big pieces that haven't really had that playoff experience. Yet and still, when you're playing with a Steph Curry, 3-time champion, Klay Thompson, 3-time champion, Draymond Green, 3-time champion, Andre Iguodala, I think a 2-time champion, 3-time champion. They can calm the waters. It's like, no, we're gonna win this game. Chill out. The Golden State had the worst shooting game. Not to mention the fact that Steve Kerr, the hours before, was notified that I guess he's in health and safety protocol. So you had Mike Brown, who also a couple hours before it was announced that he he got like a 4-year deal to coach the Sacramento Kings. Shouts out to Mike Brown. And you still win the game. Golden State, in my opinion, I'm starting to notice, because people keep saying their weakness is their height, or their height and their lack of size in the paint, which I understand that causes problems. But when you go against Nikola Jokic, who now is a 2-time MVP, and you win 4-1, when you're going against a physical team like Memphis that has Jaren Jackson Jr., that has Steven Adams, which, by the way, Game 4 was the first time Taylor Jenkins actually featured Steven Adams and had a really good game. Golden State's size may be glaring, but no, in my opinion, their biggest concern is their carelessness. Their biggest concern is the fact that they are a high turnover team always. But because they have world-class athletes like Steph Curry, or world-class shooters like Steph Curry, like Klay Thompson, like Jordan Poole, that their sheer offensive talent is able to overcome that. But sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes, as we saw, Game 2? Golden State damn near averaging 10, 15 turnovers a game in this series. In this playoffs. Okay, I think in this series. That is the only, I'm not going to say only, but that is the biggest concern. That's their biggest weakness, in my opinion, is their carelessness. And don't get me wrong, Steph Curry is. It's not just Steph Curry, but Steph Curry definitely is part of that too. They just turn the ball over a lot, and you're playing an inexperienced team. Now, do I think that those turnovers can be minimized depending on the talent that you're playing against? Possibly, but you can't be. I understand you. You cannot be careless, especially when you're playing a team that has every recipe to beat you. And you can't help them with the recipe. You can't help them by turning the ball over. So Golden State, in my opinion, I don't know if John Morant's going to be back. I hope he's back. He missed Game 4, which of course Golden State won. And that's another thing. Taylor Jenkins, man. One thing that a coach is able to dictate is rotations, is the amount of which somebody plays, stuff like that. You can draw up plays, but it's really hard for a coach to dictate what's happening on the floor because these are the game is always reactionary. You have to react to certain things. And certain things that you have to react to, you don't know you have to react to it until it happens. So I understand that it's difficult coaching in the moment, but Taylor Jenkins, this is not a attack on Dillon Brooks, but Dillon Brooks was 5 for 19. He was letting them Jones go, and I don't think I've seen a person. You know how we talk about Russell Westbrook a lot, how he'll shoot on the left side of the rim or left side of the court and hit the corner of the right side of the backboard, and I come in here religiously and say, do you understand how hard that is? I think I've seen. Now, this is a person in Dillon Brooks that was suspended a game. Suspended in Game 3. Do you understand how hard it is to continuously airball the ball? I think I've seen at least 4 to 5, probably 5 to 6 airballs from this man. So clearly, just Dillon Brooks doesn't. I understand defensively, but clearly Dillon Brooks doesn't have it offensively this series. Yet, and you see that he is going crazy. When I say crazy, I mean he is putting up shots. He had 19 shots. And half of them 19 was hella off, especially the last one. When he did a step back 3 and damn near just grazed the fucking rim. Grazed the rim. Taylor Jenkins, you have to understand, bro. I gotta pull you, bro. You're hurting us more than you're helping. Especially a Grizzlies team that deep. This is one thing that they were able to do. I understand that rosters shrink in the playoffs. I get that. But one thing that the Grizzlies were able to do almost better than anybody in the league, is their depth. They were able to rely on players from the bench. When you have Brandon Clark, when you have Milton, they are able to rely on a lot. Tyrus Jones. Tyrus Jones. There's a lot of players that they can rely on. So why do you have Dillon Brooks jacking and missing? He's a big reason why they lost Game 4. In fact, his offense not being there is a big reason why they're struggling. Not saying that he's the only reason. They are playing a Golden State team, which a lot of people, including myself, has them winning the championship. But there's But now we have Game 5. Hopefully, John Morant comes back and they will be fighting for their lives. So let's move on. Luka is Luka. So the Phoenix and Dallas series is I'll say this. If you want to, so my theory that it is difficult playing with star players. If you ever question that, or if you ever needed an example, The Dallas series is an example, clear example. And I would say Exhibit A, Luka Doncic. Exhibit B and C, Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie. Now, do not get me wrong. Spencer Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson is not Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is an arguable. A lot of people have Luka Doncic as a top 5 player in the league. Nobody has Jalen Brunson or Spencer Dinwiddie. But this is why, I think I said it last episode as well. This is why it is tough sometimes playing with a superstar, such a ball dominant superstar like Luka Doncic, like James Harden back in the day, like a Russell Westbrook, because it's hard. Basketball, a huge aspect of basketball is rhythm. You have to be able to have a rhythm. And it's hard to catch a rhythm when most of the time, the basketball is energy, right? And when you touch the ball, it gives you energy. Have you, and you know, everyone proof of that for people that listen. Have you ever been hooping? Like, I don't know, at the YMCA, at the park, at the rec center. Have you ever been hooping and you be dead tired? Dead tired. Your team is probably on a 3, 4, or 5 game win streak. You're dead tired. Full court games. You're dead tired until you touch the ball. Then you get a burst of a rush of energy when you have the ball, and that whole I'm tired just goes completely out the window. The ball has energy, and this is not a referendum on Luka at all. This is just showing you proof that sometimes it's hard playing with a superstar, because at the end of the day, Luka needs the ball in his hand as well. James Harden needs the ball in his hand as well, or need the ball in his hand, especially when he was with Houston. Russell Westbrook needs the ball in his hand, as we can clearly see with the Lakers, because he doesn't do much else off the ball. It's just tough. It's tough because Dallas is a good team. They're not the best, but it's a good team. And of course, it's crazy. When Dallas wins, they always say, that's an incredible team. They always talk about their defense. They always talk about how Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie was incredible. They talk about how Luka Doncic is Luka Doncic. That's what they talk about. When they lose, they always say, damn, Luka Doncic needs another superstar. It's hard sometimes playing with the ball. It's hard a lot of times playing with a ball dominant star. That's why it was hard a lot of times for people to play with Kobe. A lot of things get masked when you win, but it's hard. And again, this is not a referendum. This is not I'm not bashing Luka. I'm not bashing Kobe. I'm not bashing any ball dominant player, because at the end of the day, Kobe, rest in peace again, is one of the greatest players we've ever seen. James Harden, one of the greatest players we've ever seen. Luka Doncic, one of the greatest players we've ever seen. Like that, we can't take that away from them. But you're playing against Phoenix, which is a great team. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Cameron Payne, Jay Crowder, JaVale McGee. This is a good team. And while yes, Dallas is good. It's just you see Dallas succeed more when Luka shares the ball more, when it's more off the ball. Jalen Brunson gets involved. Dorian Finney-Smith is hitting threes. That's the recipe to because Dallas moving forward. Every series that Phoenix is in, the other team is going to have the best player. Say they beat Dallas, and I don't see Golden State giving up a 3-1 lead to Memphis. So they're going to be playing Golden State. Golden State has the best player in Steph. If they go Miami, they're probably going to have Phoenix going to have the best player. If they play Philly, Philly will have the best player. If they play Milwaukee, Milwaukee will have the best player. And you can argue if they play Boston, Boston will have the best player because they'd have Jason Tatum. But again, when you play with a ball dominant player like a Luka, it's tough. And that's no offense to Luka. That's no offense to Jalen. That's no offense to anybody. That's just facts. So it's it's tough. Oh, and before we move off of that, the incident with Chris Paul, his family, and like the fan that put hands on his mother and like pushed his wife, followed his wife up the steps and stuff. Look here. I don't know what it is, but people feel like they're entitled to do whatever the hell they want these days. I don't know what it's going to take, man. I don't know, because if I was Chris Paul, bro, I understand like you lose some money, but you're not about to put your hands on my family. Whether it is something as you were drunk, okay, cool. There's been a lot of people that's been drunk. They don't put their hands on people. Don't put your hands on nobody, bro. Because trust me, you're going to find the right one. Chris Paul looked like he was the right one. That they stopped him from doing something reckless. So just these fans are getting crazy, bro. I don't get it. Let's move on to the Miami and Philly series. First and foremost, I would like to apologize. I'd like to apologize because last episode I talked about the 10 most important players to their team for winning, and I left out. I even spoke on leaving out Joel Embiid and James Harden because I said, I don't even think even with them they have a chance. I was wrong. Since Joel Embiid has come back, Philly has won. As I'm recording this now, Philly has won 2 straight games. So now the series, as I'm recording, is 2-2. Could very possibly 3-2 Philly by the time you hear this. Joel Embiid, man, is incredible. Again, he did enough to win the MVP, just didn't win. And James Harden finally had a vintage-looking James Harden. I think he scored like 14 in the fourth quarter, finished with 31 points in Game 4. When you have James Harden playing like that, Joel Embiid playing like that, Tyrese Maxey still playing the way he's playing, Tobias Harris playing good defense, Danny Green hitting 6 or 7 threes, you're going to beat anybody. And now Miami, see the problems that Miami faces, or the problems that Miami has, is starting to rear their ugly head. Kyle Lowry out Game 5. I think he re-injured his hamstring. Miami, and one thing that I said, the one question that I had with Miami is, your defense is incredible. We know this. We know how good your defense is, but who can you rely on offensively? And as we're seeing, Tyler Hero ain't it. Let me not disrespect Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero cannot lead a team in scoring, and you think that your team is going to be successful in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler has been incredible. But outside of Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero, who? I know Victor Oladipo is trying to get back to where he used to be. But Vincent? Bam Adebayo, who's been completely negated offensively due to Joel Embiid's presence now. Don't get me started with PJ Tucker and his offense. It's tough. Now, I'll be real with you. As I'm recording this, it is the series is 2-2. I have now changed my mind, and I think that I've flipped my opinion. I know it's crazy. People are able to flip their opinion. I flipped my opinion. I think that Philly's going to win this series just because the problems that I thought that Miami would face, they are facing, and that is, where does the offense come from? You can play incredible defense, but at some point, your offense has to match your defense, and it hasn't done that, especially since Joel Embiid's been back. So, yeah, I apologize, Joel Embiid and James Harden, for disrespecting you. And honestly, this Kyle Lowry injury is huge, man. Especially when we talk about offensively, too, because more than likely their third offensive weapon or second or third offensive weapon should have been Kyle Lowry. Not saying that he's Steph or anything, but he's better than what he's been giving you. He gave you nothing this last 2 games. So, yeah, man, I'm changing my mind about that. And, yeah. And moving forward, and lastly, man, or let me say this, Milwaukee and Boston. Who said it? Shouts out to Mike Greenberg, man. This is a clear cut example of best team against better player, or best team against best player. This Milwaukee is different from last year's Milwaukee, clearly, and this is the biggest reason why I said that. This is one of the biggest reasons why I knew that Milwaukee can still win this series. Let's just get that. Milwaukee can still win this series. However, it's different, man, when you have Chris Middleton when you don't have Chris Middleton. Almost every game, Boston can be up 3-1. They gave a couple games away, but Boston can definitely be up 3-1. And what you're seeing a lot from Milwaukee is them give it to Giannis and say, yo, do something with it. Bobby Portis hasn't done anything really. Jrue Holiday hasn't really done much. Brook Lopez, he's been catching lobs from time to time, and he's been good defensively. But outside of that, offensively hasn't really been, Pat Connaughton, I think he's out now. That's huge. Boston has been the best overall team since like January. And Giannis is good enough to win a series by himself. I just don't know if he's good enough to win this series by himself because of how good Boston is. Boston is good enough to win an NBA championship. Boston's good enough to beat Milwaukee. They're good enough to beat Philly. They're good enough to beat Miami. They're good enough to beat Phoenix. They're good enough to beat Dallas. They're good enough to beat Golden State. They're good enough to beat Memphis. Milwaukee, they have the best player. They have Giannis. They have the great equalizer. But as we're seeing, man, I saw something that I don't think I've seen from Giannis before, and that was in the fourth quarter, he was gassed. He was tired in game 4. He was gassed. And that's what happens when you have pressure. That's the same thing happened with KD. When KD, they were throwing Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, throwing double teams, Grant Williams. They were throwing everything, the kitchen sink at KD. And it showed. And that's the same thing to do with Giannis. And while Giannis is more physical than KD and more of a brute force than KD, game 4, he looked beat in the fourth quarter to the point where, and the fact that he's not even making free throws anymore. I saw Giannis miss a layup. So, he laid the ball up and the jump went, the basket in the orange part. It was on the back of the orange part. Giannis. So right now, and shouts out Mike Greenberg, it's not an original thought. It's best team against the best player. And I think, at least now, I don't know if I said this before, but I think Boston's going to win this series. Boston should be up 3-1 right now. If it wasn't for Marcus Smart missing a tip back and Al Horford's tip back going at the end of or past regulation, they would be up 3-1 right now. So there's that. So the unpopular, well, before we go, the unpopular opinion of the week. I think that salary caps is the most racist thing about sports. Salary caps. What do you mean by that? I think salary cap is a clear sign of racism. The clearest sign of racism that you can see in sports. Even more than black coaches, even more than Kansas City Chiefs and Florida Seminoles and the Chop. Salary cap is the most racist thing in sports. Why is that? And where are you getting this from, Jalen? First and foremost, there's only 2 leagues that have a salary cap. 2. I think 3. 2. And that is the NFL and the NBA, which, by the way, is the only 2 sports that are dominated by African Americans. That means baseball doesn't have salary cap. I know NHL has salary restrictions, but I don't know if they have a salary cap. They could have a salary cap, but I think it's salary restrictions, meaning just some teams can't afford players. Soccer definitely doesn't. The NBA and the NFL have salary caps, which is crazy because let's just look in the United States. Both of those leagues are the most profitable leagues in the United States. Not saying, of course, the moneymaker is baseball due to the contract that you can get, but basketball makes way more money if you talk about marketing and revenue and popularity. Basketball makes way more than baseball, and football is king. So the 2 sports that if you look on paper, and 2 sports that if you look just revenue-wise, make the most amount of money in the United States, have a salary cap. And it just so happened that both those are dominated by African-American players. You don't see a coincidence in that? You don't see it weird, the fact that players like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and I'll throw white players in it too, or players like Stephen Curry, LeBron James can make a certain amount of money. Like they can't make more than X. It just that's racism. And they do not want, they don't want African Americans to thrive like that. And there's not just African Americans in both the NBA and NFL, but there's a majority of it. So they're like, yo, we're not going to let the majority of African Americans succeed just because there's a couple of Caucasians. Yes, I know that it's not just Caucasian, a couple of other races. But the 2 sports dominated by African Americans have a salary cap. Yet and still baseball. I know what they're gonna say. Baseball is Hispanics. I'm like, bruh. There's a reason why they call baseball the American pastime. Not saying that it's an American sport. I get that. But there's still one of the great things to do is go to a baseball game, even if you don't like baseball. Just you have to go for the experience. Hockey has all these players which you don't know their last names, or you can't even pronounce, like Lundqvist. Salary cap is modern racism, in my opinion. Clear-cut racism. The most blatant form of racism in sports. And you want to know how you know that's the truth? Go tell MLB you have a salary cap. We're gonna implement a salary cap. Go tell soccer we're gonna go implement a salary cap. Yo, soccer be paying $500 million just to get a player there, and that's not even his contract. They have to pay They pay 500. I think it was it Neymar? I think they paid like $500 million just to get him out of his deal, then to pay him another $500 million. That's a billy. Like, clear as day, the one sport that is dominated by two sports that are dominated by African Americans. LeBron James makes more money. LeBron James, Steph Curry make more money off the court than on. And there you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. So whatever you want, I got you. Just go to the website or click on the link, go to the website, click on the shirt, click on whatever item you want. Buy, bada bing, bada boom. In a week and a half, it goes to you. Also, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.